I'm Tony Pasco, and this week on the Backstage Pass, I got a really special guest, a really good friend of mine, Tom Weber. In certain circles in the industry, he's known as the Tom Weber, and you will soon find out why we call him that. This guy's resume is phenomenal. I actually have to read to you real quick why he's the man. This man has been the guitar tech for Van Halen, Poison, Dio, Journey, Reba McEntire, 9 Inch Nails, Billy Corgan, Matchbox 20, and Lyle Lovett. I mean, this guy has done it and seen it all. So let's check in with my buddy Tom. You look exactly the same. No, it's been a few years, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Quite a few, actually.
Well, let's start off. I want, for a lot of the people watching, you know, the first question they're going to ask is, well, what is a guitar tech? What does a guitar tech do? What's your day-to-day? What would you, fill us in on what you do being a guitar tech?
Well, guitar tech is kind of like the head cook and bottle washer for all things with strings on them. It's a job where you're responsible for musical instruments, string them, polish them, set them up, make sure they're absolutely consistent from one day to the next so that the artist doesn't have to look at you and go, why does my guitar not play the way that it did yesterday? It's an all-day job. It's babysitting instruments and being there for your artist, hopefully in a good situation.
Right.
You try really hard to listen, pay attention. You have to be on top of your game every minute of the day because at any point in time, something can go south and you're the guy that has to make it work. So it can be a handful, but I love it. I love it. It's a long day, but it's not as bad as some.
Right.
I could be a lighting guy or an audio guy or a video guy or a rigger. Those guys have to get up way early in the morning, and they stay up way late at night. Backline guys. And for those who don't know what the term backline guy is, a backline technician is somebody that deals with the band's personal equipment. We're the last ones in. Hopefully everybody has a good day and we can get a lot of time on the stage to do what we need to do. But, if they're not, we have to make the time up. And we're also the first ones out, which is not a bad thing. You work until you're done and then you're done. And you don't have to come back later.
And then you're gone.
Take stuff out of the ceiling and all of that. So.
Well, now for a lot of guys that may not know, and this is what's always impressed me, seeing the behind the scenes and how shows are put together, what a lot of guys may not understand is you're not just responsible maybe for one guy's one guitar. When guys are on tour, they could have up to how many guitars? 10, 12? I mean, depending on the show and how many changes. I mean, you are really the guy that has to maintain quite a bit of stuff.
Absolutely. When I was on tour with Journey, there were days where we'd have 48 guitars in the building and another 36 in the truck, and that's just Neil's stuff.
Yeah.
Matchbox 20, we were on tour with Counting Crows, and somewhere I have a photograph of stage right or stage left, and between the three guitar techs that were over there were probably 150 guitars. And it's just insane, just insane. 9 Inch Nails. There are songs where there's a different guitar used in a different part of a song. So you may have 2, maybe 3 guitar changes during a song.
One song.
So, and you have to have, if you have a guitar, if you're smart, if you have a guitar that your artist likes to play, you have a very similar backup to that. So if something happens to it, you know what guitar you have to hand him right away. Broken strings, there's any one of a number of things that can go south during a show, and you're the guy that has to make sure that nobody notices if that's at all possible. So it's kind of it can be a stressful situation if you let it. But if you plan properly, and yeah, I've always told guys, build it right in rehearsal and you won't be chasing it on the road. So, build in as many redundant backups as you can to every single thing that can possibly go wrong, and just know that you may have to rely on them at any moment, and you'll be fine.
Very cool. Well, let me ask you this. Now that we, people know, okay, this guy's worked with Neil Sean, he's worked with these amazing people. How do you get into something like that? How did your journey start?
Well, I started as an audio guy. Back in the 70s, and I've been on audio gigs with Bob Seger, Ted Nugent, Montrose, everything from King Sunny Ade and his 25-piece African drum band to Steve Morris. It was a lot of years as an audio guy, and I took a break because my son was born, and I wanted to spend a little time watching him grow up. And I literally turned down a gig with Deep Purple. And I, most people would go, "Are you nuts?" But sometimes you have to set your priorities, because one thing that we don't get in this industry is time. I'm usually home. I was home 46 days last year. So family time is really, really precious. And, I took this break to watch my son grow up. I opened my own guitar repair shop, got it to where I thought I really wanted it to be. And I got a voicemail one day, came in from running some errands, and a buddy of mine who was the production manager for the band Blessed Union of Souls out of Cincinnati was on my voicemail saying, they were looking for a guitar tech and wondered if I knew anybody that would be interested. And I thought to myself, the whole time that I'd been an audio guy, I never gave one thought to being a backline tech. It never crossed my mind. I built my first guitar when I was 14 years old, but it just wasn't part of, I was an audio guy. And I thought, I bet I could do that. I mean, I can carve you a guitar with a cabinet scraper from, a tree stump if I have to. And so I called him back, and I said, I got his voicemail, of course. And I said, give me the particulars. I might be interested. And he called me back about 20 minutes later. He said, dude, I never thought we'd get you. He said, it doesn't pay enough. He says, let me call the guitar player. I'll make sure he's cool with it. I'll call the record label. We'll see if we can get some more tour support, and we'll see what happens. And he called me back about 2 hours later. He said, dude, guitar player's ecstatic, record label's behind it, and I can afford to pay you money. And that's where I got my start as a guitar tech. And
money's good. Yeah, that's
from
awesome.
There, it was, from there, it just kind of is it's the list that you have, there aren't a lot of names on that list, but
oh, that list is pretty impressive, my friend.
It's an impressive list.
Yes,
you got to be kind of scared of a long list of artists, because if you have to work for a lot of different artists, it means you haven't been back. And I'm really pleased to say that my list is pretty short for the amount of time I've been at it, because I think that I've got a good situation going with the people that I work with.
Yeah.
And we have
well, that's why you're the Tom Weber. That's why we put the before it, because everybody loves you. Anybody who's ever met you, anybody that I know that knows you, all say the exact same thing. I mean, I had an interview with Josh, and Josh was like, well, who else you got coming? I said, well, I got Tom. Oh, the Tom Weber. He goes, oh my God, that's great. He goes, tell him I said hello. You're that guy. You've always been that guy.
Yeah, Josh is great. I had occasion to do I was on tour with Bush last year, and working with Chris Traynor, and we did some work with Josh with the Chef-Tone pickups, and he wound a few things for us that were really, really everything that I could ask for.
I know, I love them too. I got them in my guitars.
Yeah, we've got, Chris came out with a 63 SG Junior last year. Wanted to play slide on it for one song, and he played it, and then he's a Les Paul guy, so I was ready to hand him his main guitar back, and he kind of waved it off. He said, "No, I'll keep this." And the next song was a heavier song, and he started playing. And he turned and looked at me with his mouth hanging open and his eyes wide open, and I'm looking at him the same way. It's like, oh my God, listen to that! It was the single best sounding guitar I've ever heard in my life. So of course, the next day, we're looking all over God's green creation to try and reproduce this so that we have more than one of them.
Yeah.
And Josh did a really great job. He wound a pickup for this thing, a P90, that it sounded so close to the first one that it's like, okay, we can hand these back and forth and not worry about, well, this one sounds completely different, and I missed the great one, and this one's just a standby.
Yeah.
It was a really great endeavor.
And that brings up a really good question. How involved and and I know this from my standpoint, seeing you work, but how the artists themselves, how involved are you with their setup and with their rigs? You know what I mean? I mean, do you help them get their rigs together? Do they ask you for suggestions? I mean, how's a lot of that come about?
It varies from artist to artist. I know when I started with Neil, it was don't touch anything. It's temperamental enough. You just string guitars, don't touch anything. Well, we had a failure about 4 minutes before showtime that basically unveiled a serious problem, and I got around it. And I mean, it's showtime. Walked back after fixing the issue temporarily, hand him a guitar and say, "Have a good show." And he didn't even ask what was wrong until the next day. And I had to tell him what was going on. And I said, "Look, it's my job to make sure that you have, or it's my job to make sure that you have an enjoyable environment in which to do what you do. But it's my responsibility to make sure that you're safe. So I have to be allowed to go through and fix things that are not right." And I told him that we ran across something that was potentially really dangerous, and I had to convince him that, look, you got to turn me loose a little bit, so that I can find stuff. And I said, look, I know that you're worried that something will change. We'll change things one thing at a time. When I find something, I'll tell you what I found, and we'll change that. You try it. Tell me if it's better or if it's not. If there's a way to keep it the way that it is without it being dangerous, then fine, we'll go from there. And every day for most of the tour, it was like, holy crap, it sounds so much better. It's never sounded like this. And we just had a ball.
That's great. Now, I heard, a friend of mine was telling me that Neil has basically an 18-wheeler just for his guitar gear on the road. I mean, Journey, has a bunch of them, but I heard Neil specifically has one that's just guitar stuff.
Not really. It might have been that at one point in time.
Oh,
but
okay.
During my tenure with Journey, Neil took up probably the first half of the backline truck. And we ended up, I mean, there were guitars everywhere, different amplifiers, because he was using a lot of the Fractal stuff in conjunction with a collection of guitar amps that we had on the road.
Right.
And we finally ended up building two identical rigs, which encompassed 5 Fractals in each rack, which is insane. I mean, it's just, you wouldn't believe what that rig did. There was so much capability there that his pedal board was 7 voltage control pedals and a MIDI control surface. and I named it the SS Neil Sean because it was like 7 feet long. But what a magnificent machine this was. And just, he'd come into the warehouse when I was working on this thing, and he'd start playing and tinkering with stuff. And I needed to be busy because this was 3 months worth of work and so much money invested in it that it had to be perfect, and there was no way around it.
Yeah.
So I needed to be busy, but you couldn't walk through the room while he was playing something and not stop and go, oh my God, listen to that. It's just amazing. There were so many outputs coming out of the system that would go to, different speaker cabinets in stereo and pan back and forth from left. I mean, it was like movie quality sound coming out of this thing.
Wow.
And I was very proud of it. Very, very proud.
Now, are you finding more guys going that route with the Fractal stuff? I mean, it seems to work.
Yeah, it does work, and it's getting smaller and smaller. With Chris Trainer, with Bush, when I started working with Chris, he had this huge rack and all kinds of gear. And we've gotten down to a point where he's using a Fractal Axe 8 pedal board and running a pair of lines to a Matrix digital stereo power amplifier and a pair of Marshall cabinets and the 2 balanced outs to the audio guys. And it's a done deal. And I think it sounds every bit as good as his big rig.
Wow.
And for him to leave that big rig in the warehouse and rely on that Axe 8 is a huge statement to what can be done. He's done some brilliant work with it, programming the sounds and making them just monstrous. And you can't argue with results. It works.
And how much do you have? Are you involved in helping him and guiding him? Is it a 50-50 kind of thing, or?
With Chris, he was one of the very first Fractal endorsees, so he's been with that machine for a long time.
Okay.
He really doesn't need any help, which is cool because he comes up with stuff, and it's exactly what he wants it to be. Now, does he ask my opinion? Absolutely. And do I give it to him? Absolutely. If I like something, I will say it's absolutely great. If I don't care for something, I'll tell him why. And then he'll go, you know what, I think I hear what you're saying. Let me see if I can do something about that. And then he'll do something about that because he wrote it and it's all good. I mean, it's like, holy crap, listen to that. And you got to be happy when an artist is involved to that extent because they are taking responsibility for what happens on a daily basis. If something's not working properly, they can't look at you and go, what did you do? No, you did it. I'll help you find it, but you got to tell me what you did. So, and the folks at Fractal are amazing. You've got Cooper Carter is their field guy, and holy crap, and Matt Picone, again, 2 guys, they know that thing so inside out that I can study for the rest of my life and not
Right.
scratch the surface
Oh,
of what they're capable of.
No, it's complex.
And they're right there to help at any time. So it really is an advantageous way to go, especially if you're trying to conserve space. If you have the ability to have all of the gear that you could possibly want, go for it. But if you want something that you can just if you want it to be small enough to pick up, put under your arm and go do a gig, absolutely. It's the best thing in the world.
Well, don't you see that's where kind of touring is going, in the future? I mean, smaller, more compact, easier to travel with, more reliable.
Yeah, in light of everything that's going on, who knows where touring is going to go.
Well, yeah, that could all change.
So it's, it may very well be the only way to go. You may not even, one of the biggest advantages of something like that is if you have to, say you have to fly someplace, you can get with a backline rental company and say, I need a Fractal Mark III or an Axe 8 or this or that or the other thing, and you come in with a guitar and a memory stick, and you plug in the memory stick and program it to be exactly what yours is at home, and you don't even have to bring it with you. So it's
That's nice.
There's a lot of innovation that is going to make a lot of people's lives easier. You know, the guys that are starting with this stuff rather than hauling around, you know, 1,000 pounds worth of guitar gear, you know, they're never going to know how hard it has been to get those sounds, because they will have never had to fight with the analog gear to cooperate with one another.
Right.
This piece doesn't want to talk to this piece. This piece sounds great on its own, but as soon as you hit this button, it sounds like trash. Like, crap, how do we fix that? Well, there you go.
Right.
All of this stuff, you know, is the answer to all of those problems. So.
Well, that brings me to our buddy. Speaking of backline rigs, you know where I'm going, our buddy Cece with his backline rig. And that's actually how we met. You got to tell that story, what happened. And then that's actually how we met years ago, was with Poison, when you were out with Cece DeVille.
Yeah, Cece's my favorite cartoon character. I love him to death. We have such a good time touring. And I mean, when you and I met, that whole situation was one of the coolest things ever. Because I mean, we got there. I can't remember where we were. We were in Mississippi, someplace rehearsing, I believe.
Yeah.
And we got everything set up. And first day of rehearsal, you know, we walk in and there's all kinds of, you know, there's stuff from Peavey in every dressing room. You know, the guitars and, you know, practice amplifiers, and it's like, you know, a little note that says, you know, just stopped in to say hi, check this out, you know, and you know, if you need anything, let me know. And I thought, wow, that is the coolest thing in the world. And first day of rehearsal, we walk in and the Bobby Dahl's tech goes to turn on his rack full of Ampeg amplifiers, and the whole thing starts huffing smoke. And I don't know, to this day, we don't know what happened to it, but all of them went at the same time. Yeah. It's almost like they were hooked up to the wrong power. And we're calling, this was at a time when Ampeg was kind of in flux. Right. And nobody knew where the schematics for those amps were. Nobody was repairing anything at that moment. And I had just met you, and I'm frantically making phone calls trying to get that situation straightened out. And you're on the phone, and within, same day courier service and local music store and this, that, and the other thing, all of a sudden we had gear because you knew where to go to get it and how to get it there in a hurry. And holy crap, it was like, this guy is amazing. I don't believe this. And it's really great for us to find people like you, because you're one of maybe 3 people that I've met in my whole tenure as a guitar tech that understands what artist relations actually is.
Well, who are the other 2? Because I'll kill them, and then I could be the only one. No, I'm kidding.
There you go. There you go.
You know, I'm Italian, so you know.
There you go. Yeah, well, yeah, it's just a very, very personal job.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it is.
You just did an amazing job with it.
Oh,
we
thanks.
Still talk about you every time we do something with the bass rig. You know, JP and I talk about you, wonder where you are, what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well, and that's another thing I want to kind of, people need to understand. You become like a family. You know what I mean? It's not just, it is a job, and you do expect to get paid, but when you're dealing with these people and they're traveling, they're away from home and this and that, the people you're with every day, you do create a little bit of a bond. And the one thing I can say out of all the bands that I've worked with, when I was at Peavey or Washburn or wherever, you have your favorites. You know what I mean? And for me, you and I hit it off right out of the gate. So, we always got along. So, but then when you come into the Poison thing, and this is what I want people to know about these professional bands and when they're touring and stuff. It's really kind of an amazing thing when you're brought into their world and they make you feel like family. I mean, you know, and Brett and Cece and you and JP and all the guys, I mean, from day one when I came in, I felt like, wow, these are my people. I love this. This is really cool. There's a reason why they're so successful and still around. You know what I mean? And it's a pleasure to work with people like that.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, it's so much fun. I have, most of the artists that I have worked with, there has been a bond like that. You know, I work with Billy Duffy from the Cult on and off, and he has a reputation for being hard to deal with.
Yeah.
It's no secret, but and a lot of them do. You know, that they have reputations, but the secret behind successfully dealing with guys like that is you have to understand that they didn't get where they are because of what you do. You know, they expect you to maintain what they enjoy about what they do. So you have to listen, shut up, and then do. You know what, you have to take the information that they give you and make it reality on a daily basis. You know, and it was so funny. I was afraid that I wasn't going to have a great relationship with Billy because it was first day. Well, I got the phone call because I got the phone call to come and do the gig on a show day because the guy that was taking care of him walked off the bus, got in a cab, went to the airport, and didn't tell anybody.
Oh, he just ditched.
Just, yeah, on a show day.
Whoa.
And so I get a call at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon asking if I can be on an airplane in an hour. Yeah, I suppose I can. It's not going to be easy. And I fly out. I don't even remember where it was. It might have been St. Louis. And I get to the venue, and all of Bill's gear is still in road cases sitting in a pile on the stage. Everything else is set up because he's not there. Nobody knows how his rig goes together, and he's not going to be there until right at showtime.
Right.
Put something together, make sound come out of it, and we'll deal with it from there. So I set everything up the way that I thought it needed to be. Right at showtime, here he comes. Hand him a guitar, off he goes on stage. He comes back, and in his inimitable British accent, he hands me the guitar back and makes the guitar change. He says, that one needs to be stretched a little more. And I said, great, okay, no problem. And that was the only word, those were the only words that I heard from him. Second day, same thing. He's not here. Okay, same deal, set the gear up, do the show, off he goes. Third day, he's on his bus. And the call comes across the radio. Tom Weber, Mr. Duffy wants to see you on his bus right away. And everybody's like, okay, here it comes, you know, welcome to the Cult. And I'm thinking, crap, here we go, you know. And I walk up on the bus and I sit down, and he comes out and he pours himself a cup of tea, and he's stirring his tea and isn't saying anything. I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be one of those. And then he looks up and he goes, evidently, I've never had a real guitar tech before. The guitars are brilliant, the tone's amazing. I couldn't be happier. And that's like,
really?
And that's the relationship that we've had since that day. It's like never a hard time. He's great. And we have a really great relationship when we get together and can work. I can't always go when they're ready because I may have something else going on, but if I'm free and he needs me, I'll show up.
That's awesome.
And it's a good deal.
Yeah.
And I like to think I like to think it's that way with everybody. So.
Well, that's great. Yeah, you're doing something right. You're constantly busy. You're always on the road. Now, I do have to ask you, we had this whole thing, I'll fill everyone in. back in the day, I tried. I told CC DeVille, I'm like, let's get you on some PVs. We had a bunch of different ones, and we tried to, and there was this thing about him having the same backline for years, and you kept saying, Tone, help me. Let's tag team him or some way, you know. We got to update his rig. Let's get his rig. Let's try get him onto something else. I had no success. I tried it when I was at Black Star. Remember, I tried to get him on the Black Stars, no success, and he was so sweet about it. Has there been any change? Did you finally crack him?
Yeah, and you know, we tried so many things. You know,
Yeah.
he had been playing crate amplifiers forever,
Right.
and he is the most loyal endorsee you could come up with. I mean, we tried everything under the sun because he was open-minded, you know, in that respect. And every time we'd all go, man, that sounds incredible. And then he would say, Tom Weber, can we just try the crates just one more time? And I know I sound like him. His mom says I sound more like him than he does.
You do.
But you know, we'd plug his rig back in, and he'd start playing, and you go, you know, it sounds like him. But this last tour, we were starting to have issues with those old crate heads. I mean,
They had been 20 years old.
Oh, the smoke came out of a couple of them. I mean, we were traveling with 22 crate heads because we didn't want to be without them, right. You know, just in case they caught fire or something. And we finally talked him into trying the new Marshalls. And of course he said, I don't know about this. You know, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think of the sound? And we got about 3-4 shows into it, and he comes off the stage. Funniest thing, he comes off the stage at the drum solo, and he smacks me on the shoulder. He says, Tom Weber, see, I told you we should have been playing Marshalls all this time. And he hits me again. He goes, when are you going to have a little faith? And of course, we're both rolling, laughing, because there's no way that he would have played Marshall if he would have been in a situation to continue playing crate. But having amps catch fire during a show is not where either one of us wanted to be.
Yeah.
So he was willing to try it. And he literally, his sound is monstrous.
I bet.
Really monstrous. We're using 400-watt heads, and it's, you can finally hear what his right hand is doing. You know, he is a fast player.
He's a great player. He never got his due, in my opinion. I think he's a great player.
Much better player.
And he's one of the funniest human beings on earth.
Oh my God!
I swear, that guy could be a stand-up comedian. That guy is so funny.
Absolutely, and he could go on a continuous comedy rant for probably 3 weeks and not touch on the same subject twice.
He's hilarious.
I tell everybody, Ed's my boss, Cece's my boy.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you know who else is a real sweetheart is Bobby. Bobby.
Oh yeah.
For whatever reason, him and I kind of hit it off, and he's always, every now and then I'll run into, you know, on social media or something, and he'll send me a message. How you doing, Tony Pasco? Hope you're well. I mean, like out of the blue. How sweet is that?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I mean, his rig caught on fire, and you bailed him out.
Well,
how could he forget you?
Well, I got lucky that day. I did. I got lucky that day. Oh, and you know, I have to tell you this funny story. Brett was out doing his solo thing, and he was playing the fair down in Pensacola here, right? This was a year or two ago. And I was on the side of the stage, haven't seen him or anything, you know, Brett's Brett, you know, doing his thing. And I'm standing on the side of the stage. He goes to walk like I just saw him an hour earlier. Hey, Tony Pasco, how you doing? Comes up to me, hugs me, like,
Awesome.
Yeah, and my wife is standing there, and he goes, "Who's this beautiful lady?" You know how he is, and she's like, "You really do know Bret Michaels?" I'm like, "I told you, but I didn't think in a million years that he would remember, because it's been a few years, So people move on, and he meets so many people, but at that moment, he acted like there was nobody else in this huge arena where he was playing. And that's a wonderful ability he does have. He makes you feel like you're the only one there, like you have all his attention at that moment. And it was really sweet. And that's where it made me feel like, wow, I had an impact with these people. We did have a connection, you know what I mean? And it's a nice thing.
And that's one of the great things about that family. We may be kind of dysfunctional, but it is a family. It's once you are a part of the Poison family, you're never not a part of the Poison family.
Right.
You can be the black sheep and nobody will talk to you for a couple of months or something, but you're still, it's in your heart, and you don't know why you go back, but you do because you have to. There may be bigger tours to do, but I'll tell you what, if I have the opportunity to go and hang out with CC and the guys, I can't turn it down. I mean, until I'm too old to do it, or I'm just plain dead, that phone rings and it's CC on the other end of the phone, I'm showing up.